The full episode is now available on Patreon. Please see the link in the description for more details.
And we are back to talk about some Star Wars. It's been a minute, but before we started, you were just telling me about Andor, and
it's been a while since Star Wars, so I'm like, oh man, I miss TIE fighters and X-Wings and Imperials and Star Wars music and bounty hunters. Like, I'm just been looking forward to that, right?
This is like nothing we've ever seen before. It's vastly different.
Yes, it's vastly different. It might as well not be Star Wars. There was nothing Star Wars about this. Like, had you gone to see a regular movie and this was like those 3 episodes was just a movie, I'd be like, oh, that's a really interesting, like, science fiction movie. Yeah, it was all right. Kind of like, I liked it, but it had nothing to do with Star Wars. Like, it's almost like, it's almost refreshing. It was really good. Had nothing to do with Star Wars. Nothing at all.
It was really good, and it was a very, very, very good move on Disney's part, releasing the first 3 episodes. Because...
Oh, gosh. The first 3 are a self-contained story. The one criticism I would say is when episode 1 ended, I was like, they're ending the episode there? What? That makes no sense. And then episode 2, it did the same thing. I'm like, what? Why are we doing it? What? That's just random. You just picked a random point to end the episode. There was no closure at all. And then I get to the end of the 3rd episode and I'm like, oh, now that's all one self-contained story. Like, that was not 3 episodes. That was just that was a movie. I just watched a movie,
Yeah.
But it was very good. Like, first of all, what's with the good acting? Since when does Star Wars have acting? Like, that threw me off. I was like, wait a minute. There's really interesting direction. There's great acting. There's emotions. There's sex. What? People have sex? It was so different.
It was a very mature Star Wars story, and it works so well, kinda.
Oh,
I'm just waiting for stormtroopers to show up to
and ruin it all. First of all, like, let's just say, like, it started, and the first thing is I text Carmine. I'm like, this isn't Star Wars. This is Blade Runner. Like, it's completely different atmosphere.
He goes through a brothel at the very beginning, and then he brutally. I wouldn't say brutally murders. They give him no choice, but like, he murders 2 guys, and like,
it's so different and better in so many ways. First of all, the acting is incredible, and Star Wars is famous for stilted, horrible acting, even when they get good actors. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, Pedro Pascal is a fantastic actor, but he's not exactly at top of his game in Mandalorian. Okay, granted, he has a helmet on, so there's not much he can do. But even then, I'm like, this isn't top-notch stuff. The direction, really interesting, beautiful shots. The atmosphere of their city, it being like somewhat Moroccan, but not too Moroccan. There's that kind of a bell tower minaret mosque in the middle of town. Just the atmosphere of that, where like they didn't need those scenes of the guy like hitting the bell. I guess it comes back a little at the end with their little bell thing to create intimidation with the security forces, but just beautiful stuff, beautiful atmosphere, everything coming back. I think it was, for most viewers, a little slow paced, but I thought that was okay, personally. At first, I was really thrown off by the flashbacks. I'm like, these flashbacks have nothing to do with anything. And then when you get to the end of the 3rd episode and you're like, oh, now everything's coming together with the parallels, like his story, like we understand how he ended up where he is, and it's paralleling where he's going now. And it was such a beautiful closure to that 3rd episode that would have made a really good movie, like, by itself, like, had that just been a movie. I don't know, I loved all the little characters here and there that all had and the villains being such human, relatable people. Like, you understand where they're coming from, and they're not just, one note individuals. The fact that, like, you can take that villain and be like, like, he's in his job and he just wants to do his job, and everybody's lazy and bureaucratic and he just wants to do his job, but he's kind of incompetent too. And then there's so many little things that I really loved about it, but it's not Star Wars. It's not Star Wars at all.
Not Star Wars. Exactly. And once again, Andor was actually supposed to premiere around the time the House of the Dragon comes out, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna push it back, and because we're gonna push it back, we'll give you the third episode on the premiere day. Originally, it was only gonna be 2 episodes on premiere day, but then they're like,
that would have sucked.
That would have sucked. This is something I've been saying for a long time now. The release model has to be 2 or 3 episodes on premiere, and I'm completely fine with that. You know what? Take your time. Take your time to set up your story and the first couple episodes. That's fine. That's what Rings of Power should have done.
Yeah.
It's what Raised by Wolves did. Remember Raised by Wolves when that first came out a couple years back? They released first 3 episodes.
It was also, and Raised by Wolves was definitely slow and it took a while to really establish their setting. This I just was really amazed at the 3 act structure and the 3 episodes and how much they were calling back things and having themes and like all these things where I'm just like, whoa, this is you whoever wrote this, like, really like, it was a real writer. It was like it wasn't just a bunch of fanboys shoving in Easter eggs.
Now I feel like that's a dig at Mando. Mando is fine. I like Mando. We're gonna get Mandalore next season, huh?
I was actually, it does apply to Mando, but what I was thinking, it was the source material. What I was thinking was Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
Which had a bunch of shoved in Easter eggs that just, Now, I will say that Rogue One, of all the Star Wars movies, also has the best, most interesting direction. The fact that this series is even better than the Rogue One in terms of direction. I mean, I don't think it's quite as good in pacing. Like, it is slow, and not that much happens. And I think if you're going to have one criticism of the show, it would be, it took them 3 episodes to get someplace that they could have gotten in 2. But that's fine. I mean, we're watching Rings of Power and they haven't gone anywhere in 6 episodes, so it's fine. So, or 5 episodes. It's 5 episodes in, and we're like, what? Nothing's happened.
It's the same writer who wrote Rogue One, of course. He's also the same guy who wrote all the Bourne movies.
Oh, okay. I mean, the Bourne movies are kind of funny. I think the Bourne movies are a lot like popcorn or pretzels. Like, you're eating it and you're like, this is food, it's fine. And then it's over and it's just, you've forgotten about it. Like, do you remember any of the plots of the Bourne movies?
I know Matt Damon's just like kind of like guys are chasing him, and then in another movie he chases those guys.
And then he's like fighting. And there's like, I know if you say like a code word in each movie, like everybody comes down and like tries to find you. They'll be like, it's like Briar Patch, and then all of a sudden he's on the run. Or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. But so I also thought the fight scenes were incredible. Like, people getting hit, like people that that characters that you somewhat have like gotten introduced to getting hit. It was gritty. Even our protagonist gets like shot a couple times. Like, characters die. There's blood. It just really felt like there were stakes and people could get hurt. It was. I mean, it was. Would you say it's the best Star Wars show so far?
See, the inner fanboy in me is like, what? But Mando season 2, Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka. Well, yeah, but this one was also pretty good. I really wanted to see the very next episode. This is one of the very few Star Wars shows I've seen so far where I just have to see the next episode because it was just getting good.
Yeah. I think this is like going to a burger restaurant and being like, I can't, I'd love a nice burger. And then you're waiting for that burger and they bring out a really nice steak. And you're like, well, this isn't what I asked for. it's really good. It's similar to what I asked for, and this is like much better and more expensive than what I was expecting, because I was just expecting a crappy, like a burger, and you've brought me a steak. Like, it's so weird, right? It's definitely not what we like. It's not what we were expecting from our Disney Plus Star Wars show. We weren't expecting it from a Star Wars show at all, and then we get this, and it's like, it's real. It's this is like real cinema. It's not even like movie. It's not even like TV show. This was like real cinema.
And even though it was
crazy.
picked up for a second season before it even premiered, something tells me that second season will probably be the last season, because everything you're saying is correct, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars. So I don't know if like the casual viewers are going to tune in going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question, because it's, Star Wars fans at this point are just looking for the Easter eggs and the references to the expanded universe, and when a Jedi is going to show up, and all that kind of stuff. And this isn't any of that. It's a really simple tale of a guy getting in some trouble with some cops, and then the cops, like, at first not really thinking it's a big deal, and then one cop being like, nah, I'm going to follow this up. And then everything escalating, right? Like, that's all it is.
It's like the plot of almost like a lot of cop films, kind of. Like, for example, I think American Gangster with Denzel. Ethan Hawke's character, like, no one gives a fuck, but Ethan Hawke's character continues to follow up on all the drugs.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the plot of The Wire, too. You got your McNulty character, Yeah, but it's just, even that villain, I'm just like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, how is he going to take it? Like, the fact that he's the one that personally escalated this thing, and then he just fucked up. He was like, we discovered he was really incompetent, and then we also, he got so many people killed. He just must feel horrible. He's probably gonna, like, it's probably just gonna make him even worse, right? Make him, like, really want to get Andor, double down on everything. But it was just such a funny thing that his second in command that he pulls in is, like, much more competent, like that speech scene out of nowhere, right? Like, what is that? Like, would you ever expect a scene like that speech scene where, the second in command guy, well, I would say third in command, because the evil, the villain is like Bronzion Royce went on vacation or something. Where did he go?
Bronzion. By the way, we're going to get quite a few Game of Thrones actors in this. So far, I've noticed Bronzion Royce, and we're going to get Walder. From what I've seen in the preview, Walder Frey is in on this as well.
Yeah, and his mom is from Killing Eve. She's a classic actress. She's really good. But they spend time in the middle of the episode for this incredible scene where he's like, the second in command. Well, first of all, going back, the Bronzion Royce scene. Bronzion, what a fucking master. Like, he fucking rocked that scene where he, like, looks at the situation, figures everything out, realizes it's not worth it, and, like, gives this like long speech about, like, how it's nothing. We should not do our job in this situation, because he's an old wise bureaucrat who's been around the block, and it's such, like, by itself, I'm just like, oh my god, like, it's like an Emmy award winning, like, scene where he's just like, in one small scene, I know everything about him, I know everything about the organization, like, I'm just like, he's so wise and lazy, and
and he was right,
and he was so right. He was so right. I've met a million bureaucrats like that in my life, like, wise and lazy. Like, it's not worth going down that path. I've been down that path. I was young and ambitious once. I've been down that path. It's not worth it. Like, and just the young, like, idiot, the young idiot that, like, he's so eager to do his job and be important, but he doesn't know. And he escalates.
I really like
everything.
Scott, the third in command guy, Scotty.
Yeah. He brings in the tubby one, yeah, and he was the one that was actually competent. Like, when stuff goes down, our villain like freaks out and can't deal, and the other guy is like actually doing everything, and he gives a better speech. I'm saying like they have that speech scene where he like the Scotty guy gives the speech and it's pretty good, and then he's like, hey, now you can get a speech, and he doesn't have it's not a horrible speech, it's just like meh, and everybody's like, okay, like who Star Wars just taking the time for something like that. Like character development. Oh, man. What? This, like, I'm just like, character development. This isn't Star Wars. Like, what? No, it was far and beyond the best Star Wars show we've gotten. Far and beyond.
Yeah, it has no business being as good as it is, but it is, and I feel as though this script was probably not written with Star Wars in mind, but it was so flexible that you could have like included Star Wars elements, and they don't. Like the only reason you know this is Star Wars is because it says Star Wars in the title credits.
Yeah, and they put on the box they put a little like Imperial emblem, and that's it. That's it, right? Like no one. Only when Skarsgård kind of comes in at the end do you feel like, oh, like it's the rebellion. But he doesn't even say the word rebellion, and you don't really hear very much about Empire. Empire's mentioned maybe 4 times, like, but yeah.
Actually, they mentioned the Republic.
Yeah, you're right. They do mention the Old Republic, like that scene at the beginning when Andor is going to get killed. He was going to get killed by Old Republic people, not Empire people, because I guess he would, he's like what? I'm trying to do the math on when that would be. But if this is taking place 5 years before Yavin, that means the Empire has existed around 15 like years that, or so. And so he looks to be about 12 when he's a little boy, maybe 10. And so we're making the character like 35 or something, not in early 30s, so probably just before the fall of the Republic.
The one thing that the Star Wars shows have been doing very, very well lately is almost every single show and almost every single movie is the droids. The droids are always really charming. I really like the little droid in this one.
I was about to say, man, that droid is probably my favorite droid to ever be put to screen. Like he's just little things like when he's like, I need you to say this and this, and he's like, that's a lie. And he's like, no, I just need to say this and this. And he's like, that's 2 lies. Like what droid would? That's like what an awesome. He's subtle. It's not like he was an over the top kind of droid, but man, that was good. I love the droid. I would actually say my least favorite character in the whole thing is Andor himself, and but I still like Andor. I just think he's pretty vacant, right? Everything happens to him. Like you understand who he is, reflecting into all of the great characters that are in the story. Like he goes and he meets his friends, and his friends are like, every way that each friend covers for him tells you about like their personality and reflects back to Andor. Andor himself is kind of vacant. But like, I loved his mom. I loved his friend where he goes and he's like, I was at your house last night. I liked the criminals that try to shake him down for money. I like the villains. I like his, I will say I have a little criticism is that the girlfriend that's, she's a little too hot.
What is that? What are you trying to say? What does that mean? What do you mean she's too hot? For who, him?
For everyone in the show, but also like, but like she's supposed to be, really good at technology and smuggling and has a secret connection to the Empire, and she's a supermodel. Like you could have just made her like pretty. You didn't need to bring in like drop dead gorgeous, right? Like, come on. Just make her pretty. Don't like it's just so unbelievable that she like she would draw too much attention. Is what I'm saying. If somebody's a secret rebel spy, you don't bring in somebody that everyone in the room is going to be like, oh my gosh, like the hottest woman in the room. I don't know.
I think she was the main female lead in Morbius, which okay.
Oh, okay.
Give her something. she's got to be in something good this year at least. And I think this is it.
But I did really like the complexity of the, like the jealousy of the boyfriend. Like it's very understated. It's subtle, like, oh, and I'm gonna get drunk and then turn him in, and she's not actually even having a romantic connection with Andor, but he assumes, probably because the girl's too hot for him. maybe she did need to be that hot. I don't know.
But no, it's the most mature Star Wars story we've gotten so far. Like in the very beginning, he goes to a brothel to try to find his sister. Then he gets hassled by those two cops, and then he kills them in cold blood. He goes back. The Bix, the supermodel, she goes to her boyfriend's house, and it's very clear.
Oh, was her name Bix? I thought it was Biggs.
No,
and I
Bix.
was like, oh, they named her after Biggs Dark Lighter?
Bix. Bix. She's
Bix.
yeah. So Bix Kayleen. And she she goes to his house. It's very clear they have sex. She's getting dressed. It's a very mature, very grounded Star Wars story, and I can already see the Red Letter Media boys complaining that it's going to get like all Star Warsy like you did.
I think they're going to like it. I mean, I think they're really going to be shocking. I think they're going to be really shocked, and they're going to like it. Because they're not, they have their expectations pretty low on Star Wars in general, and I've seen them praise stuff. Like I think they were pretty positive about Mando season 1. Which, if you're pretty positive on Mando season 1, and this is way better than Mando, they're gonna be positive on it. So,
I do wonder though, because it is such a different Star Wars show that it's gonna be jarring for a lot of people. I want to see how well it does in viewership, because I can definitely see people not liking it because it's too slow and too quote unquote boring. So.
Yeah, it's also a character no one cares about. From a movie that no one cares about.
Yeah, I wonder how good this would have done if it was like maybe someone else. Hell,
this is kind of the anti-Boba Fett, really, right? Because you're like, let's take, the Boba Fett, it's like, let's take a character everybody cares a lot about, and then just have it be crap. And this is like a character no one cares about at all, and have it be incredible. That's just
honestly unpopular opinion here. I would have swapped this out in the development phase. I would have swapped this out as, instead of Andor, Obi-Wan. Like he gets in trouble with these bullshit cops, and like they rat him. His conflict with them ends up alerting the Empire, and then it gets crazy and stupid. But like this is what Obi-Wan Kenobi should have been, a more grounded. A mature story. This is what I wanted Obi-Wan to be, but we got Andor instead. Yeah. It's good. It's just Andor doesn't have that drawing power that Obi-Wan and
no. And if you ask me, am I satiated? Am I salivating for the next episode? Do I need to know what happens next? The answer is no, because like the episode 3 was a great closing to it, and I kind of know where the character is going. He dies in Rogue One. Like, so for it being a prequel and everything, where I already know that the character is doomed in a period of less than 5 years. I like it way more than I thought I ever would. And you're right that it has no business being this good. And the reason it has no, it is like they just took a pretty solid, nothing sci-fi script that couldn't get picked up because it doesn't have any sort of franchise attached to it. And then they're just like, oh, this is, let's change the main character name to Andor and just like put it forward. That's what it really feels like. That this was like some guy's high quality script that he had sitting in a drawer. And in today's Hollywood, nothing like that gets made anymore because everything has to be part of a franchise. And then they just slipped it in under the guise of Star Wars, and it got made. That's what it feels like to me.